Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good
Hope you guys
morning.
are having a good
Good
start to your
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
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 Good morning.
feel like peer pressure set in there. Uh-oh, someone else said good morning. I better say good morning. 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 Okay, it is 9:30. So I'm gonna go ahead and we are recording, so that's good. Good on that. Um, Minimize that. It's weird that I should be on focus mode. View. Nope, speaker. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Well, everyone, welcome to Chem 1310. This is chemistry for non-science majors. So, historically, I have a handful of fine arts majors and business majors taking this class, then some communications majors. Um, Let me tell you right now, it is not my goal to make you at the end of this class say, I got to change my major to chemistry. Um, my goal for this class is to help you kind of appreciate or enjoy chemistry. If you've ever taken a chemistry class before and maybe it was like, oh, it was all right. I want to, one of my aims and goals is to bump that up a little bit. If you rated it a 2 out of 10, a 3 out of 10 is an improvement. I'd like to see it go up to like an 8 or something like that, but I'll get what I can take. And I know that science and chemistry isn't really everyone's forte. It's maybe not something that you're particularly interested in, but I want you to, at the end of this class, have an appreciation for it. Say, that's not really my thing, but I can understand why some people like it. And that's great. And if you already have that attitude and that approach, awesome. Then I think that this class will be pretty low impact and a pretty easy class for you. Um, so I guess, those are my intentions. Now, I think there are some important things to uh, address from the start. Um, I presume that everyone has accessed the Canvas page and they can see that. Um, and there isn't anyone who's just like following links through emails. Let me tell you that I prefer to view the Canvas page in a web browser. So I don't use the Canvas app. So there are times whenever I'll say something and reference something, and I've had it happen where I'll say like, "Oh yeah, you just go here on the Canvas page," and someone in my class will say, "No, I don't see that." And that's kind of I don't know if I would say it's a disconnect, but that's one of the differences that can potentially take place whenever you're looking at it on the Canvas app versus on the web page. In addition to that, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see the instructor's view of our Canvas page. So application windows, yeah. So this is my default view of our Canvas page, and it's a little bit different from yours. Now, if I click View as Student, I can see a little bit of what the difference is, but there are still some things that I might neglect or I might overlook. Now, with that in mind, I don't normally click View as Student. I'll make a change to the Canvas page and I don't necessarily click View as Student just because I'm like, oh, I made the change and I can see it on my view. And it just slips my mind, honestly. But if there's something that you're like, I can't see that, I can't find what you're talking about, please let me know. And I can either send you the direct link, or I can give you some more advice on how to arrive at the thing that you're looking for. So I will be communicating primarily through the announcements on Canvas. Those all go to your emails. Um, one of the problems that could take place is that I get at least one notification every single day from Canvas. I know that you guys probably get at least one, if not more. You probably get one from every one of your classes. Um, and I have a habit of kind of looking at, hey, Canvas, important information. And then I open the email and it's like, you have 78 updates from Canvas. And I'm like, how many of these are important? Um, and so I would recommend for my class, if you don't have the habit of, or if you have the tendency or the bad habit that I have of looking at a Canvas announcement and saying, like, oh, well, I'll look at that later, I would recommend going either in the app or on the web page to the announcements. So then you can see kind of the catalog of announcements that have been sent out. That's kind of like my mechanism of communication. If you emailed me directly, I'll respond to that, absolutely. But I'm just saying that you're probably, or you're most often going to get emails from me through Canvas. I'm going to add to our chat right now my email address, joelgray@txstate.edu. You might also see it as jg1345@txstate.edu. Edu. There we go. So those are the two possible email addresses you might get from me. Now, with that in mind, one of the things that I like to do in this class is I like to get kind of responses, quick responses through the Canvas or through the Zoom chat. So I'll ask a question. I'll say, if you think it's this, put a number in the chat. If you think it's this, put a letter in the chat. I always like to ask kind of binary questions. It's either this or it's this. So then we get lots of quick feedback. That's helpful for me because then I can, there's kind of a low barrier for a response. Now, one of the things that you guys need to know up front is that, and I'll pull this up on our syllabus, attendance is required and is expected. With that in mind, though, I'd like to scroll down to the attendance policy. Students are expected to actively participate in every scheduled class. Zoom sessions are recorded and posted on our Canvas site indefinitely. So those links will be available. Today's recording will be up and available for you guys right before the final. I'll link it on my YouTube channel, so you'll be able to access it there. Now, a little bit more important and a little bit more detail for that. The participation. So whenever you hear, oh, attendance is required and expected, what does that mean? Did I just take a survey of everyone who's in the Canvas or who's in Zoom right now? I haven't, but everyone's name gets logged. And whether you're here or not gets logged. Now, the way that I evaluate and the way that I count attendance is by participation in Zoom questions. So I'll pose Zoom poll questions, and I'll do some in just a little bit. And there are also Canvas discussions. So your participation in class has two parts to it. One part is coming to class, and an equal part to that is a Canvas discussion. Now, there will be approximately 24 days in which Zoom participation is kind of assessed or collected. And then there's going to be approximately 24 discussion topics and discussion periods. Could everyone give me a 1 in the chat if they understand that there's two parts to participation? Okay. Wonderful. So during our actual class period, so during the hour and 20 minutes that we meet, I'll have poll questions that pop up and you'll answer those. And there's going to be, if I had to guess, I probably have about 6 poll questions per class period. There's going to be some that start the class, some that end the class, and then some that are peppered throughout the class period. I like to sort of use the starter questions as, hey, here's the things that we're going to talk about. How familiar with them are you? And then the ones at the end of class are, hey, now that we've talked about this particular topic, what do you know about it? And what's your quick shake on it right now? The questions that are during the class period are um, some of the more direct questions, like on the screen you're shown this. How do you extract it, or what do you take about that information? Okay, so what I would recommend doing is thinking about every class period as being worth a total of 4 points. 2 points will be collected from whether or not you answer the Zoom poll questions, and then 2 points will be collected based on whether you participate in the discussion. Now, I'm going to show you an example of the discussion by going to discussions. This is not yet published for you guys. It will be at 12 p.m. today. So you'll have from 12 p.m. today until 12 p.m. on Friday to participate in this. So you'll go to discussions, and there's a January 21st discussion. And this discussion is just kind of like a get to know you sort of thing. We have a class of 150 people, and I've broken this class down into groups of, I think, anywhere from 7 to 10 people. So you're going to be in a group or a cohort with about 6 to 9 other people. So a total of 10 people roughly are going to be in your group, and you're going to be in a discussion with these same people throughout the entire semester. So I kind of wanted to take this mass of 150 people and break it down into something a little bit smaller. So this is kind of your, if you wanted to, it's like your online study group of sorts. Now I'm not forcing you guys to meet or call each other or share any private information like your phone number or anything like that. But these are the people that you'll be engaging with over the course of the semester. Is everyone going to participate? There will be some folks who elect not to, and they'll just, basically not be earning the points that come with this. So the first discussion, this must be completed by Friday, January 23rd at 12 p.m. So that's 12 noon. For 1 point, post your first discussion. Please post the following things as a list or as a complete sentence. What's your major? What's your favorite thing about San Marcos or Texas State University? And what's your favorite outdoor activity? So you'll get 1 point for doing that, and then you're going to get 1 point for responding. Now, in the event, so what that means is you'll make your post and then check back later in the day. Is every single discussion going to be exactly like this? No. Lots of them are going to be for 2 points. Write a multiple choice question that would be good as a study material for the upcoming exam or for the upcoming quiz or something like that. Can I get a letter in the chat if you understand that, and then put a number in the chat if you're confused about it? And then if you put a number, please follow up with what it is that you're confused about. Okay. So I'm seeing lots of letters, so that's a reassuring thing. I'm not seeing any numbers. Okay, so to sum all of this information up with regards to participation and attendance, like I said, I will always post our class recordings. So it's possible that you have a full-time job. Maybe this is the last 3 hours that you need in order to graduate. You have a full-time job and you say, you know what? I signed up for this class because it was online and I thought that I didn't have to go to class. Now, if you did that, well, I'm sorry, because when you signed up for this class, it did have a designated time. But let's get past that. If you're like, you know what, I'm fine with this. What this means effectively is that without any sort of extra credit, the highest that you can earn in this class is a 95%. Because you can, even if you don't come to class, you can participate in the discussions. So you'll be kind of saying, I'm all right losing all of the points for attending class because I'm going to participate in the discussions and I know I'm going to ace the rest of the class, so I'm still going to get an A. I'm good. So that's where I, in some respects, kind of have like a attendance is required, but is anything required? And it kind of becomes like a philosophical discussion there. But could everyone give me a Z in the chat if you follow that? Saw an X, so that makes me think either somebody mashed the wrong key or they are confused. Okay, so coming to the Zoom meetings, participating, it is a part of your grade. If you never come to class, are you toast? No. Is it a good plan? Not particularly. It's not particularly a good plan, not because I have some sort of special sauce, like I'll tell you this secret information. Only you who are in class will get this. I always kind of think about the class period as basically like, hey, this is a dedicated hour and 20 minutes that I don't have to set aside to study chemistry or to study for this class. Because during this class period, we talk about things that are going to be on your exams, and I'll give you practice examples. So if you don't come to class, can you still make an A? Yeah. If you don't come to class, you just have to find that time to study for this class outside of this hour and 20 minutes. Okay. Then on our Canvas page, I've got quite a few important links. First of all, this one at the top is the textbook. Good news, the textbook is at the awesome price of free 99. So this is a free textbook. This is also known as an OER, an open educational resource. So if this is the only class that you're taking, then I would make sure that I opt out of Booksmart, because otherwise, if you do not opt out of Booksmart, then you're going to pay $285, I think, for a free textbook. And that seems pay for wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. So here is the textbook. It is a textbook that we've used for this class before. You can get a PDF of the full book. If you're thinking, well, what should I do in order to prepare for this class? I think using the slide decks that I will provide you with are going to be the most valuable thing that you can do. Just because, well, if you look at the textbooks and look at the slide decks, you'll notice there are some things that are missing from the slide decks that are in the textbook. I'm not going to be asking about those things. So I would use the slide decks as my primary resource. So that's kind of, yeah, that's where I would start. Now, the next thing, first class period, today. Hey, here you are. Meeting link. This link is always going to be the link for this class. We will always meet 9:30 to 10:50 on Mondays and Wednesdays. I've got office hours from 12:30 until 1:30 p.m. And this is the link for my office hours. You can always go to that link for my office hours. We've got spring break. Woo! From the 15th to the 22nd. No class will meet that week. And I will not assign any work for you that week. But we will have a discussion. So the discussions will always be posted the day of our class, and you'll have 48 hours to do them. So for the Wednesday before spring break, you'll have a discussion posted. So make sure you do it before you leave for spring break. And that will, chances are, because I'm kind of a softie, it'll be something like, do you like spring break and time to relax? Answer yes or no. Or what is your favorite soda that you're going to drink over spring break? So that will be kind of low-hanging fruit. The rest of them will not be that silly. The rest of them will be like relevant to the content. Our last class period is going to be Monday, May 4th, 2026. We'll have a total of 29 class meetings. Man, semester's almost over. Exam dates. We'll have a total of 4 exams. They will be on February 11th, March 4th, April 8th, and April 29th. Those are our in-class or our midterm exams. all of our exams will be administered during class on Zoom. So what that means is you'll have to log into Zoom and you will, you'll log into Zoom to take the exam. And it will be during the class period. So from 9:30 until 10:50, that's when you're going to take your exam. In the event that you have accommodations of some sort, whether it's added time or something else, I've received a couple of communications about those and I haven't responded to them yet, but I am glad to help out. I know that there are some folks who the added time, they said, oh, well, it's actually best if I take the exams at the testing center. I'm fine with that. I will gladly accommodate that. I know that there have been some folks who said, well, I want to take my exam at the testing center, but you said our exam was during the class period. I've made accommodations for that where I know that the testing center has particular blocks that you have to take. So if you have to take your exam at 1 p.m., the day that everyone else takes their exam, again, communicate with me. Let's figure this out so that there's a good situation for you to take your exam. Our final exam is going to be Wednesday. How about Wednesday, the day that people have actually heard of, May 6th, 2026, and it's at 8 a.m. In the event that you are ever curious about when's the final, well, it's right here, but also final exam schedule. This is a persistent link. So if you wanted to, you could go ahead and bookmark this and you can use this for forever. This has the entire university's final exam schedule. For our class is a Monday, Wednesday class that meets at 9:30. Not many Monday, Wednesday classes meet at 9:30. So what you need to do is sort this by meeting days. I'm going to scroll down to Monday, Wednesday, and we are looking for a non-standard class, Monday, Wednesday that starts before 10 a.m., Wednesday, May 6th, 8 till 10:30 a.m. So you can look at your entire schedule and find out when your other finals are. If your professor is like, ooh, I will be secretive. If you have a conflict on that day, let me know and we can figure something out. Whether that's taking the final early or taking it at a different time, we'll sort that out. I think typically if you have 3 finals scheduled for the same day, the university gives you some latitude and your professors, usually when someone says, hey, I have another final at, right after, I'll try to accommodate them. I've done that. Why is this class called non-standard? Because it's non-lame and other classes are lame. No, it's non-standard because Monday, Wednesday, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes typically start on the hour. So they start at 8, they start at 9, they start at 10. And then in the afternoon, they'll start at 12:30 or 3:30. Morning classes on Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday typically don't start at 9:30. So that's why this is a non-standard class. But also, it's awesome. Okay. So there is all of that. So that's lots of information with regards to the structure of this class and when things are going to take place. I've also got the syllabus here, which has lots of the same information, but I wanted to go through a couple of other things, a couple of more details with respect to it. My name is Joel Gray. You're welcome to address me as Joel. You can call me Dr. Gray. You can call me Dr. Joel. I don't really mind in any direction. There's my email address. My office is in Zoom. My office hours is in Zoom. Monday and Wednesday, 12:30 to 1:30. I will be at this link. If I am not there, I will contact you guys with an announcement saying, hey, I'm not going to make it, or something like that. I think last semester there were 2 times whenever I didn't make it. So I will communicate with you. Otherwise, you can just join that link. The best way to contact me is by email. I expect that I will respond to you guys within 24 hours, and you guys can expect the same. If you email me on Monday at 2 p.m., I'm going to respond to you by Tuesday at 2 p.m. If you email me and I say 24 business day hours. If you email me on Friday at 4:45, I'll get back to you by Monday at 4:45. Usually I don't get many Friday 4:45 p.m. emails. But when I do, I get back to him the next fairly quickly. But this is just trying to give myself a little bit of a boundary where, hey, if something is really concerning, let's try to handle it before the weekend, especially because our class is Monday, Wednesday, so Thursday and Friday are good days to communicate with me. Excuse me. But with respect to these office hours, one thing that I want you to understand and want you to appreciate is that this is not the only time that I will meet with people. These are the time, this is the time that I will be at this link. Outside of that, let me know and email me with a proposed time. Hey, I have class during this time. And you don't even have to say like, hey, I can't make it to your normal office hours. Just say like, hey, can you meet on Tuesday at 2 p.m.? The one thing that I request of you guys is that you propose a time because it saves everyone a little bit of a email back and forth. This course introduces physical and chemical properties of matter. Topics include atomic structure, periodic table, bonding, molecular geometry, states of matter, gas laws, solutions, types of chemical reactions, and stoichiometry. Students will make connections between chemical principles in their daily lives. This course is intended for students in non-science majors. It is not intended as preparation for general chemistry. So if you're thinking, oh, well, I want to be a chemistry major or a biochemistry major, this is not the best class for you. There's another class that's Chem 1320. That's a better class for you. But communicate with your academic advisor. This does fulfill a part of the core curriculum, so that's why lots of folks take this. We got our student learning outcomes, interpret macroscopic, particulate, and symbolic representations of matter and its changes. And then what really everyone's most interested in is grade breakdown. What does this class consist of? This class consists of quizzes, activities, midterm exams, final exam, and participation. We already talked about the participation being worth 10% of your class. Your quizzes, 20% of your class. These quizzes, there will be a total of 13 of them. You can take that as I'm guaranteeing there will be 13. If there are more, so be it. I will send out an announcement. I usually like to have sort of review quizzes that I'll throw out from time to time that are really intended to be like a grade booster of sorts. Your two lowest scores are dropped. In the event that I add more quizzes, the number of drops will change as well. So I would, this schedule is subject to change. I will notify you of any sort of changes. But what I want you to do is think about this as this is the base. If anything changes, those numbers will change. Those numbers will be altered. Quizzes are going to be posted on Mondays. So your first quiz will be posted this upcoming Monday. And I think that that's scheduled to go out at 8 a.m. It will be due on Wednesdays by 11:59 p.m. Everyone's going to get 2 attempts at them, and your highest score is going to be recorded. Now, your quizzes are going to be administered using Proctorio. That's the lockdown browser. I will send out a Proctorio practice quiz so that you can confirm that everything that you need to do is in good order before you take this actual quiz. And that Proctorio practice quiz will be bonus points on your final exam. So by doing it and by saying, yes, I'm good, then you've given yourself a bonus point on your final exam. Expect that to be posted before the end of the day tomorrow. Again, I'll send out a notification when it is up. Assignments. There will be 14 total assignments, and your 2 lowest scores will be dropped. These will be posted also on Mondays, and you'll have until the next Monday to complete them. And these activities are mostly going to be, is anyone familiar with the H5P or HTML5? If you're not familiar with them, don't lose any sleep. These are things that are going to be in the browser, so they'll automatically be graded, and you'll get that feedback on them. Your midterm exams. These will be given on February 11th, March 4th, April 8th, April 29th, and each one of them is worth 10% of your grade. So there are 4 of them. That's how we arrived at 40%. Your final exam grade will replace those if your final exam is higher than those. Are the quizzes open book? Can we review notes? The quizzes are going to be closed resources because the quizzes, I want those to be kind of like your exams. So I want you to, but your activities are going to be open note, open whatever. So quizzes are closed book. Thank you for asking. Then your final exam is worth 15% of your grade, so a little bit more than your midterm exams. It is comprehensive and it is required. But again, I always like to think about the final exam. This right here, final exam replaces if higher. Could anyone tell me, does it say an answer with a Y or an N? Does it say final exam replaces 1 or replaces your lowest? No, it doesn't. That's not a trick. If on exam number 1, let's say that you get a 75. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch my screen share. No, I'll talk through this. If you're, let's say on exam number 1, you get a 75. Exam number 2, you get a 70. Then on exam 1, you get a 75. Exam 2, you get a 70. And then on the final, you get a 90. The 90 will replace the 75 and the 70. So that is great. Is the final exam cumulative or summative? When I say comprehensive, that's the same thing as cumulative. So an accumulation of all the information. It will have everything from the start of class till the end of class. Our exams open book / notes. They are closed book, closed notes. They are closed resources. Okay. Are there any other exams or questions regarding exams or scoring or anything like that? Yeah, cool. Can we take the exams early? Potentially, yeah, I think that we could probably figure something out. I need you to communicate with me, like what does early mean? Is it a day? Is it so I think that I could coordinate that. Does your camera need to be on for exams? 100%. Your camera does need to be on for your exams. Will exams also use Proctorio or just Zoom? Your exams will just use Zoom. Is there an average score people get on exams in your class? I would say that the average score is, so it's kind of, I would say that the average score on my exams is probably it's anywhere between 80 and 85. If I showed you those averages, it might be lower, but that's because there's, in a class of 150 people, there's going to be at least like 3 people who miss. And that's going to tank the average. So I would say a B- is kind of the average score on exams. But this opportunity for your final exam score to replace all of your in-class exams, that really brings up the overall class grade. So at the end of the semester, your grade is going to reflect, hey, I really, on exam 1, maybe I struggled, but I relearned that stuff for the final. Are the quizzes exams comprised of multiple choice or other stuff too? Multiple choice, there are some instances where I use multiple select questions. So a multiple select question would be something like select all of the true statements. And so you'd have to select all of those. And so that's where it ends up with like a partial credit situation. So quizzes are all on our own time. Within that window from as long as they are up, yes. Are we allowed a note card on our notes for the exams? Yes. Nah. Mhm. Got it. Okay. So wait, we can have a note card? Yes. 3x5. One. And you can use one 3x5 note card for exam one, and then a different one for exam two, then a different one for three, a different one for four, and a different one for the final. You cannot come to the final and bring all 5 note cards. Front and back is available. Where do we have to take quizzes and exams? At your computer on Zoom. So you'll join Zoom, and that's there. Historically, some people have asked, like, hey, if I take my exam at a coffee shop, is that a problem? Not for me. If you elect to do that, then that's fine. But, just this is like your opportunity to think about, okay, do I get, is this a subject that I'm going to be that I really need to concentrate and focus on? Or will the ambient noise or the white noise of a coffee shop actually work well for me? I'm the sort of person that I am fine focusing on some things whenever I'm in a noisy area, but then other things, if I hear like somebody drop a spoon or something like that, then I'm gonna be like, I had it, I knew the answer, and then I lost it. So it's your discretion. I will, however, be a little bit confused if you're at a coffee shop and then you have someone walk up to you, whisper in your ear like throughout the exam. Then I'll be like, "Hey, what's going on there?" Um, Front and back was in reference to the note card. Yes, you can use front and back. Both sides or just one side? Yes, you can use both sides. Just not on quizzes. Correct. Note cards are only for exams. Correct. Nice. Is the final in person? No. Nothing in this class is in person. So if anyone sends you a text message that's like, hey, for your 1310 class, come to Mochas and Javas and bring $50, that's a scam. Don't fall for it. So we have the lockdown browser and our camera on in Zoom for exams. No. You will just join Zoom for your exams. I can see from my end all of the toggling back and forth between browser and non-browser on your exams. In the event that something changes, I will let you guys know in terms of like the security measures, but I would come in with the idea of like, okay, well, I'm going to come in to Zoom. The one detail that I do need you guys to know about is Zoom is going to be a second device. So like a camera or a phone. You're going to set this up so that your phone captures your screen and your workspace. Does that make sense? So here's my phone. I would set it up right here. My phone is going to join our Zoom meeting, and it's going to be pointed so that if somebody views what I'm doing, they're going to be able to see my computer screen. They're also going to be able to see the workspace in front of me. So whenever it comes to exam days, I need you to be thoughtful of that. In the event that um in the event that you are unsure of what that means or aren't really sure how to get that set up, um, let's meet in office hours before our first exam so that we can get that all straightened out. Okay. Then the last thing that I need you guys to know is I sent an announcement this morning, and whenever I did that, I said, make sure that you sign in to your TX State account through, and then I put 3 letters. Could anyone add to the chat what those 3 letters are? SSO. Does anyone know what SSO stands for? Secure single sign-on, secure sign-on. That's where you use that Duo two-factor authentication. Yeah, now people are saying single sign-on. I always thought it was secure sign-on, but I don't know. How do we know if we did that? Well, if you, for our next class period, or for actually, I'm going to start it next Wednesday. Um, I'm sorry that Duo is frustrating. If you cannot join, that's an indication that you did not do secure sign-on. So follow the link that I posted in our Canvas site, and that will prompt you to make sure that you join our class by using the Zoom app. Go through that. That will ask you for your Texas State Net ID. Log in through that. One indication that you are using that and that you are using your authenticated account is you will see your name as the first and last, or your first and last name appears, and both are capitalized. I'm not saying that's the only way, but that's one indication. Will we be going into groups for class at all today? No. In the event that your name appears as just one word or just your first name, or maybe like Joel's iPhone. I don't think anyone's appears as Joel's iPhone, but if it appears as so-and-so's iPhone, that's a good indication that you did not use SSO. I need you to do that so that I can keep a better record, or keep the best record of who is present. Should we re-sign if we didn't do that today? No, don't worry about it today. Don't worry about it on Monday. How can I see what I'm signed in on as? Well, if you look at your screen right now, the way that I have it displayed, or the way that I see the screen, I see my name in the lower left-hand corner of my cell, and you'll probably see your own highlighted as well. I do use Zoom sometimes for work. Okay, so you'd probably want to use your log out of that and make sure that you get your Texas State account. I logged into Canvas through my phone since my computer audio wasn't working, hoping it's SSO. If you're unsure, then I would make sure that I download the Zoom app for your phone, and then you can do SSO through there. Like I said, today and Monday, it's not going to be required. But I want you guys to make sure that you do this. So I would follow the link that I sent and make sure that you go through that in preparation for next Wednesday's class. Okay. Now what I'd like is anyone to ask any questions about this class and kind of its operation. One thing that I do want to stress is that we will never meet in person for this class. This class is all online. If that's a problem, and you're like, oh, I thought we'd at least meet in person once or twice. That's not how this class is operating. There is an in-person section. I taught this class several times online and have had, good outcomes. And so I encourage you to stick with it, but you have to do what's best for you. You have to advocate for yourself. I do like to think that I have more resources for the textbook. Is each number a chapter or a slide? I know this is a dumb question. It's not a dumb question. It's fine. We've got a total of 8 chapters in this textbook that we'll go through. So if you're looking at our Canvas page, right here, we've got meeting number. That's just keeping track of the meeting numbers over the course of the semester. Today we're going to cover all the important information from chapter number 1, and then we're going to go on to chapter 2, chapter 3, and so on. Are we going to discuss new chemistry theories since AI? I don't think so. No, and I'm not saying like, oh, AI is not, that doesn't influence chemistry. But for what we're doing, I don't believe that there's much that we will talk about there. I know you mentioned it for the discussion today, but for future discussions, will it always be posted at 12 p.m. after each class? Yes, great question. So I'm happy that you asked that, Grayson, because next week you'll get a discussion posted on Monday at 12 p.m. It will stay open until Wednesday at 12 p.m. And then Wednesday you'll get one that opens at 12 p.m. and closes at on Friday at 12 p.m. When we get on Zooms for exams, will we immediately start or will there be some kind of discussion first? We will just get started. The way I'm also Grayson. Oh, sorry about that. I was answering Grayson Howard's. What's the company domain? I think what you're looking for is TX State. If you go to that link that I posted in the announcement, that should provide all the information that you need to make sure that you're logged in using SSO. I think it even has TXST .zoom.us, I think. Okay. So now I'm going to go back. Absolutely. So we are going to go ahead and get cracking. Does anyone have any questions about this class before I get into content? Can you please explain the practice exams? Sure, I will be posting some practice exams, just as like, okay. I will be posting practice exams with keys that you guys will be able to look at prior to your actual exam. So that's something that you can be like, oh, okay, well, test yourself. Oh, what's your most favorite thing? Favorite thing you love about chemistry? Man, that's a good question. Well, let me tell. I'll tell you a couple of things. First of all, I have a favorite chemistry word, and that is the word sphingolipid. That is a molecule that's like in your brain, and it helps with membranes and it helps with like development, neurological development. Sphingolipids are a class of compounds. Then I think that like the phenomenon or something that's neat. My background is in biochemistry, and what I love about biochemistry, which is a subsection of chemistry, is I really love the idea of getting. I love the idea that not everything is so simple and binary. And what I mean by that is, um, what I mean by that is like cholesterol. I'm sure that most folks have an idea that, oh, cholesterol's bad. And yeah, excessive cholesterol is bad. It can cause plaques to develop and cause a heart attack. Um, but also, cholesterol is important for hormones. So, cholesterol is the base molecule that's used for making testosterone. It's also the base molecule used for making, um, let's see, yeah, like anabolic steroids. So that's one of the things I think is neat. Thank you for asking. And then when we respond to discussions, will we already be in our separate groups? Yes, you are already divided. So whenever you get a prompt to participate, go for it. My high school chemistry teacher said any chemistry teacher can make math. Walter White isn't special. Is this true or was she messing with you? I will tell you right now that I don't think I could. I don't think I could like two levels. One, morally, but then also like technically. I mean, I could probably find resources like textbooks, like here's the 5 books that you need in order to do that. Um, but that's what I got there. Okay, last time I took chemistry was sophomore in high school, but it got cut short because of COVID. Okay. Well, hopefully this will be a much better time, and a non-pandemic related time. Private message. I'm sending this to you privately because I am on the TX State Wi-Fi and the Zoom keeps breaking up and I haven't really gotten to listen to much of the information this whole Zoom. Is there a way to excuse myself to see if I can fix it? Go ahead. Step away. Everything's being recorded so you can catch up with it later. And just so everyone's clear, these first few days, or there's a couple of days over the course of the semester where everyone's going to get Zoom credit. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to miss this question. And then in the event that you have a technical issue in the future, I I like to think that I ask enough questions throughout the class that you'll be able to answer some, if not all of them. And I'm not looking for, oh, you have to answer all of the questions and you have to answer all of them right. I like to not split hairs over that because my goal with the Zoom questions is engagement and getting people to answer them, and taking a chance. Nobody sees your response in those, so it's not like if you get it wrong, everyone's going to be like, oh, you got it wrong, because that's ridiculous. People shouldn't do that. That's shaming and that's silly. I cannot remember the last time I took a chemistry class. Or okay, so we are jumping into chapter number 1. Thank you guys for all your questions and your responses through the Zoom chat. I feel like it's going pretty well there. Like I said, I like to ask lots of questions that are binary questions. Just put an A, put a B, put a 1, put a 2. So I'm probably not going to ask many questions like I did earlier with what does SSO stand for? Just because then it takes a little bit of time for people to come up with responses. Chapter number 1, we're going to cover basically 3-4 things. The first of those things is classifying matter, because whenever it comes to chemistry and sciences in general, we care about matter. And matter could be this USB drive, my mouse, my hair, my saliva, this zero sugar A&W root beer that I'm drinking. Now, with all different types of matter, what we are most interested in is we're interested in classifying. And we want to classify it and think about it as what are the physical and chemical properties that it has? So what about its physical nature does it have? Now, if I think about like right now, this A&W root beer, it's cold. Is that a physical or a chemical property? It's temperature. That would be a physical property because it feels cold to me. Okay. Now, a physical property is something that can be identified without changing the identity. So if I took this A&W root beer that's currently cold and put it outside, put it outside on a hot day, well, the temperature is going to rise. Is it still A&W root beer? It is. I used different descriptive words to describe it. I would no longer say it's cold. I would say, well, it was cold. Then it was cool. Then it was warm. And then it got hot. All the while, the identity of it never changed. Now, when it comes to chemical properties are properties which can only be observed by changing the identity. So if you were to, pour this A&W root beer out, which just so everybody knows, I get paid $5 every time I mention A&W root beer. So this A&W root beer, which is very refreshing from A&W zero sugar root beer, which its flavor, it is on par with regular A&W root beer. It's just delightful. So if I were to pour this A&W root beer into a glass and I looked at it, well, it would have a color to it. Now, the color would be a physical property. But if I poured it and then I added, let's say that I added an acid to it, or if I added some chemical compound to it, and I'm speaking kind of generally, if I added something to mix with it, and I saw it change, saw it go from a brown color to a clear color, well then, chances are the physical property, the color has changed, but chances are something's happened on the molecular level as well due to a chemical reaction. I would recommend adding a root beer to the grocery list. Always a good idea. A&W definitely is a good choice. Barks root beer is a good choice as well. I get $3 for Barks. Okay, so physical properties. Some examples of physical properties. I said the temperature. In addition to that, the color of something. Copper, for instance. Copper, which is right here. This is a piece of copper. You can look at that and say, oh, well, it's red, or it's a reddish brown solid. Those are descriptive or physical property descriptions. Copper, if you took this and dropped it in water, if you drop that in water, chances are it's going to look the exact same. It's just going to be at the bottom of the glass that you dropped it in. Those are both physical properties, its ability to sink and its color. Now, chemical properties. This block of copper reacts with nitric acid to produce a brown gas. Now, I would imagine, and I think most of you guys would agree with me, that if I added nitric acid to this, and it's not important if you know or don't know what nitric acid is, but if I added, let's just say I added something to this and a brown gas was produced. And maybe that brown gas had an odor. Well, I would look at that and be like, oh, something changed. Something went sideways there, and there we go. There must have been some sort of chemical reaction for this solid to put off a gas. And chances are it would get smaller. So these are examples of physical and chemical properties. And now, with respect to physical and chemical properties, you have physical and chemical changes. So a physical change, the identity does not change. Ice melts. Salt dissolves in water. So this one is kind of tricky. And I'm not going to have us get ahead of ourselves or too far ahead of ourselves. But when something dissolves in water, we will get more into, well, some things dissolve and they undergo a chemical change, and some things dissolve and they're undergoing a physical change. Salt, table salt, NaCl dissolving in water is not a chemical change. So I'd like you to kind of bank that as, okay, salt is kind of unique. I'm applying this uniquely to salt. As well, when salt dissolves, that is a physical change, not a chemical change. I will get into some other examples as we proceed through the semester for things that when they dissolve, it's actually a chemical change. Now, with respect to physical and chemical changes and physical and chemical properties, there are some words that I want you to keep in mind. So, dissolving, that's not one that you should directly say is a physical or chemical change uniquely. Melting, I want you to think about, oh, if something melts, that is a physical change. If something burns or rusts, or here's another fun one, ferments. These are all good hallmarks of a chemical change. So that means the chemical properties have changed. The identity has changed. So if anyone's ever had kombucha, throw a 2 in the chat. Okay. Kombucha is produced through fermentation. So if you've ever made kombucha, you have to provide it with some sugar. You have to provide it with sugar, usually from like a fruit source, so you get some sort of flavor, unique flavor to it. Well, that's fermentation. So the chemical properties of that sugar or the chemical state of that sugar has changed. So the identity of that chemical, that sugar, has changed. So that's a chemical change. Now, physical changes and physical properties, chemical changes and chemical properties, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. But I do want you to think about some words that are associated. So burning, fermenting, and rusting, I want you to look at those all as, if I see those, that's my clue that I'm talking about a chemical change. Melting, that's my clue that I'm talking about a physical change. All right. Now, when it comes to classifying things, we always classify based on the state of matter. Now, there's 3 major states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Now, in chemistry, we will typically look at these and we'll see them denoted with an S in parentheses to indicate a solid, an L in parentheses to indicate a liquid, a G in parentheses to indicate a gas. So if I showed you something like this, H2O, which I'm guessing you all are familiar with, is the chemical formula for water. And I said, okay, when you think about water, H2O, can H2O be a gas? I mean, try boiling some water. It goes from a liquid to a gas. So yeah. Now, I want you guys to give me a P if it's a physical change or a C if it's a chemical change. I've drawn this arrow indicating H2O going from a gas. Oh man, you guys are already answering me. I haven't even asked my question. Dang it. See, this is what happens. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go slow and everyone's gonna learn. And then you guys already know the answers, so then I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. Not really. I feel fine. I'm confident in what I'm doing. But everyone who answered P, a gas going to a liquid, you're absolutely right. That's a physical change. The physical state of water going from a gas to a liquid is a physical change. Now, this right here, H2O goes to, and I'll put this as a liquid, H2O2. Let's say that's a gas. Well, H2O and H2O2, those are different. The identity of this is different than the identity of this. The number of oxygens, the O's, are different. Now, if I were to say, is this an example of a physical change or a chemical change? Well, I'm actually kind of displaying two because we've got a liquid going to a gas, so that's a physical change. But if you had this on an exam, it would more than likely be this. So our physical states are the same, but the chemical has changed. That's different. Okay, now I think that everyone has some familiarity with like different states of matter, solids, liquids, and gases, but I want you to associate these definitions and these things as very important for them. So solids, they have defined shape, they have a defined or definite shape, they have a defined or definite volume. A liquid has an indefinite shape, but a definite volume. And a gas has an indefinite shape and an indefinite volume. The best example I can think about with this is if you got a block of dry ice, if you got a little cube of dry ice, you'd be able to get a ruler and measure the sides of it and say, oh, well, this is 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches. It's a cube that is that size. Now, if you left that dry ice at room temperature, what's going to happen? That dry ice is going to go from a solid to a gas. Okay. Could you measure, let's say that we've let that dry ice completely convert from a solid to a gas, and you had your ruler out and you're like, okay, I'm going to measure the gas. Is that A, going to be easy, or B, going to be basically impossible to measure the size of a gas? Yeah, it's going to be basically impossible because a gas has an indefinite shape. Now, I use dry ice as an example, and that I think is a really good example, but I also have a story, and that's whenever I was in 6th grade. There was one of our classmates at my school who she got a stink bomb. I'm not sure if stink bombs still exist, but they came in little vials. They came in little medicine vials when I was in 6th grade. And in 5th grade probably too, but they weren't really cool until 6th grade. This student, she took this stink bomb which had a little liquid into it. She took it into the bathroom and she put it on the floor, and the little vial is glass. And this is 6th grade, so she was wearing Doc Martens because they were cool at the time. Everyone called them Docs. And I see one of your classmates giving me a confused look. Doc Martens were cool in 6th grade. Yeah, we were ahead of things in 6th grade. Yeah, we made them cool. Not really, the older kids made them cool. She stomped on this little glass vial. The liquid that was in there spilled out. And you know what that liquid did? It very quickly converted from a liquid to a gas. And it gave off an odor. And when that liquid converted to a gas, it went from being captured in this small vial. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. I don't have any Doc Martens, but I can dream. That's good. That's good. I felt like they ran out of fashion in like 7th grade. Okay, good. They're timeless. So she stomped on it. That liquid that was in that vial converts to a gas. And you know what it did? It first filled the space of the bathroom. Okay, so if you were in the bathroom, you smelled it and it stank. Then, because that bathroom was connected to the ductwork of the entire school, the gas went into the duct system and went into the adjacent rooms. So think about the container that this substance was in. First, it was a little glass vial, then it was a bathroom. Then it was a bathroom plus the ductwork. Then it was the classrooms plus the ductwork plus the bathroom. And soon it filled the entire school. And everyone was like, oh, ooh, ooh, that's strong. That's strong. And for a little while, it was like, this is uncomfortable. And then teachers started calling each other. And then we all had to go outside. And then they gave us an early release. And it was awesome because everyone was like, we get to go home. This is wonderful. Stink bombs are the best things ever. That student spent a couple of days in school suspension, but they were a hero to the rest of us that day. So my point there is the shape. Think about the container or the shape that gas took. The shape was the bathroom. Then the shape was the bathroom plus the ductwork. Is that shape a square or a cube? No, it's not. So the shape that a gas is going to occupy is going to be, well, whatever you limit it to. And whenever they opened the doors to the school, well, then all of a sudden the shape was all of the atmosphere. So that odor, it got out. The next day, everyone went back to school, and it was like it happened, and it was one of the coolest days of sixth grade. Now, think about the volume. Okay, the volume of the bathroom. So volume is the space that something occupies in 3D. Well, whenever that volume included the duct system, it's much larger. So we didn't really have a definition for that gas occupying. Whereas, let's think about a liquid. If I took this A&W root beer with 0 sugar and poured it into a glass, the volume is going to be fixed. If I pour, this A&W root beer is 355 milliliters. If I poured all of that, 355 milliliters, into a glass, and then I poured it from there into another container, then I poured it to another container, provided that nothing is lost, it's going to be 355 milliliters. It's never going to change. If anything, it would evaporate, but that's only going to happen whenever I have a state change from a liquid to a gas. Now, the shape, though, if I had this coffee mug that at the moment is filled with pens, if I poured all 355 milliliters in there, the 355 milliliters of A&W root beer that occupy this cylinder can, the shape is going to be different from the glass or this coffee mug here. So a liquid is going to have an indefinite shape, but a definite volume. A solid is going to have a fixed or definite or defined shape and a defined or a definite volume. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So whenever I think about solids, liquids, and gases, I always kind of make like a little table. And I'll say SLG. Shape, volume. And I'm going to make a little table for myself. And I'm going to say, I'll just think about a check mark indicating defined. So I'll say check, check, defined, defined. Liquid, check, means that's defined. Then I'll put like an X. And you use whatever symbols that are helpful to you. This means defined. X means not defined. All right. Okay, so we classify things based on physical properties and chemical properties. and states of matter. Now, just so if you're looking at this slide deck at home and you're looking at the clock and you say, oh, it's 10:39, class gets out at 10:50. He has 29 slides left. This is going to be a crazy next 11 minutes, and I'm not really excited about that. I'm not going to rush through things just to meet the time deadline. And so if you're nervous about, oh man, is he going to give the equal time to this stuff? Yeah, I give equal time to things. There are some things that I'll move through more briskly. But for this, I'm going to take my time on chapter one. So we will talk about chapter one stuff on Monday a little bit in terms of, well, what's going to be on my quiz? Everything that we cover today will be on your quiz. So that's the extent of it. Now, types of matter. So we've talked about physical properties of matter, chemical properties of matter, physical and chemical changes of matter, but we can classify matter. All matter is going to be categorized as either a substance or a mixture. Now, a substance is either going to be made up of elements or compounds. Now, this right here is a gold coin. And that is, if you look at this, it's kind of tough to see, but there's a bunch of yellow balls. All of those yellow balls indicate gold atoms. So if you get a sample of pure gold, it's just a bunch of gold atoms next to each other. And they're kind of just standing right next to each other, and they're identical. A substance could also be a compound. A compound is composed of two or more elements. So this right here is a glass of water. And if you look closely, you'll see a bunch of identical molecules or identical compounds. And those compounds are going to be two hydrogens and one oxygen. And it's a bunch of those. If that's pure water, which I want you to be comfortable with these two terms, distilled water or deionized, those two things, distilled or deionized water, if you have an ironing board and an iron, or know someone who has an ironing board or an iron, they use distilled or deionized water in their iron. In their iron for ironing clothes. The reason for that is because, well, it requires pure water. If you use like tap water or something, there's a bunch of dissolved minerals in tap water. Some of those are things that you're like, oh, this is great. Others are going to give the flavor of your water a little bit. Or like if you think about the hardness of water in Central Texas, we've got a lot of limestone, which makes our water particularly hard. And then that's why you got water softeners to remove that. Okay. So think about an element or an elemental substance as being just a bunch of atoms of that one thing. A substance that is a compound is a bunch of identical things that are made up of more or two or more elements. Now, our other groups of matter are going to be mixtures. Mixtures are either going to be homogeneous or heterogeneous. Now, if you look at these two different samples, well, it's a little bit tricky I think that there's an inclination to say, oh, well, that looks a lot like the element. The difference here is that if you look at this homogeneous sample, you've got a bunch of atoms. It's tough to tell a little bit, but these atoms are slightly different colors. This would be something like brass. And this brass is going to have different atoms that are basically mixed in with one another. And looking at this at the like macroscopic level, like if you went to the store and picked this up, you're not going to be able to, with the naked eye, look at it and say, aha, there is a iron atom and there is a gold atom, and there is a this type of atom. You're not going to be able to distinguish those two things from one another. A heterogeneous mixture, on the other hand, this ring right here is brass and silver, we'll say. In this case, you'll be able to detect the difference between the components with your naked eye. You'd be able to say, okay, well, if I had the instrument that I could use to separate these things, I think I could. I could separate the silver band from the brass colored band. That's a heterogeneous mixture. A homogeneous mixture, you're not going to be able to separate the individual components. So one example, let's say tap water. Is that a C compound or M mixture? Tap water specifically. Okay. Tap water is actually a mixture. The reason for that is if you go to the tap right now and you actually, here's a good idea of how you could think about this. Has anyone ever, give me a Y or an N in the chat, have you ever gotten tap water because you're going to make noodles and then put it on the range oven and heated it up and forgotten about the water? Give me a Y or an N if you've ever forgotten about that. If you put an N in there, you are more attentive to your cooking than I am, and I respect that. Now, if you've ever done that and you went back to that pan, could anyone give me a very brief description, or actually say Y or N? Was there anything in there? The water is all evaporated, but was there anything in there? Is there any like stuff? Water gone. Oh, the noodles possibly. But I'm imagining that I've forgotten to put the noodles in. I just boiled off a bunch of water. Chances are if you got tap water, put it on the stove, like white stuff on the edge, perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Dried minerals, residue, perfect. Those are all the things that I'm looking for. Those are dissolved minerals. So those dissolved minerals in your tap water make tap water a mixture and not a compound substance. Could you give me a Y or an N in the chat if that makes sense? And be honest. Okay. So we've got tap water. And what we want to do is we want to classify, is this tap water a homogeneous mixture or a heterogeneous mixture? And the way that I want you to evaluate this and think about this is, let's say you go to the refrigerator, or you go to the tap, and you've got a glass that's clear, and you fill it up, and you look at the side. You might see some bubbles, and you might see like stuff floating around, but if you let it sit for 20 minutes, are you going to have a bunch of chunks in the bottom? Oh, I hope not. Chances are it's just going to appear like it did whenever you put the water in there. So tap water is an example of a homogeneous mixture. Now, I want to contrast that with, let's say that you went to Galveston and you went out and you took that same glass or took a different glass and you scooped up some water. You didn't get any sand in there. You scooped up some water. Tide comes in, you're like, ha ha! You don't dig into the sand or anything like that, but you get water. Let me ask you, is there anything in that water? I mean, we know there is stuff in there, but if you let it sit, would stuff settle out? Yeah, absolutely. Is there a possibility that there's something living in there? Absolutely. Is there a possibility that, there's, are there trace amounts of millions of different things in there? Yes. Water from the beach in Galveston is going to be a great example of a heterogeneous mixture. Because if you got like a coffee filter, we'll say, let's say that you got a coffee filter and you poured that water from Galveston through that coffee filter. Do you think anything would get collected in that coffee filter? And it might be like you might have little leaves from or little pieces of algae, or maybe like I don't know, let's say you weren't too careful and you got a jellyfish in there. Then you'd be like, ah! That's what I would do, just because every time I've seen a jellyfish, that is my exact response. Um, because I've never been stung by a jellyfish. I don't want to try it. It's 10:49 right now. I'm gonna go ahead and stop right here. We got to slide number 17. 18 and 19 are kind of the same thing. We're gonna pick up with slide number 20. Stepped on a sea urchin. Oh, brutal. Whenever I think of sea urchins, I always just think of Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario World. And they hurt Mario and Luigi quite a bit. So I don't want to think about what it does to a foot. I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to post our recording before the end of the day. Everyone's going to get Zoom credit for today. And your first discussion will come up today at 12 p.m. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see y'all later. Thanks for coming to class, everyone. Thanks for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.